Do you think logically? Better yet, do you think objectively? Chances are you don't. And I don't either. In fact, no one does, which is somewhat comforting. You're not bad at thinking, you're just human. Our brains are kind of like that one friend who gives advice with a lot of confidence, but is always wrong. Helpful in spirit, but disastrous in practice. Today, we're diving into cognitive biases, the invisible, systematic errors in thinking that mess with your decision-making, distort your perception of reality, and occasionally convince you that spending $300 on a smart toaster was a good idea. What are cognitive biases? Scientifically speaking, a cognitive bias is an inclination of temperament or outlook, especially a personal and sometimes unreasoned judgment. In simpler terms, a cognitive bias is your brain going, thinking is really hard, so I'm just gonna cheat. See, you're bombarded with about 11 million bits of information per second, but you can only process about 40 bits per second. That's like trying to drink out of a fire hydrant with a tiny paper straw. So, your brain uses heuristics, little mental shortcuts. Sometimes helpful, but often very, very wrong. Why does this matter? Well, biases aren't just silly mistakes. They can cause serious problems. They make us confident in bad decisions, distort our memories, and even fuel misinformation. But recognizing them, that's how you level up your critical thinking, Jedi style. The biases. Alright, let's meet the gallery of brain glitches. Number 1, misinformation effect. The definition. Our memories are malleable. They can be altered when exposed to misleading information. For example, remembering details of an event incorrectly because someone suggested them the wrong way. A character that relates to this would be Dr. John Hammond in Jurassic Park. He remembers the park as completely safe, despite, dinosaurs eating lawyers off toilets. Why it matters? Well, it's why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. Your brain is sometimes a bad Wikipedia editor, and no one wants to be gaslit by their own brain. Number 2, confirmation bias. The tendency to seek out or interpret information in ways that confirm our pre-existing beliefs. For example, Dwight from The Office. If Dwight believes vampires exist, suddenly every pale coworker is proof. An anecdote would be if you've ever searched WebMD after a cough, mild throat irritation, or you have 6 days to live. Which one do you click? Exactly. This matters because it can trap us in echo chambers, from politics to playlists. Number 3, the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is when people with low ability tend to overestimate their ability while experts sometimes underestimate theirs. For example, Michael Scott from The Office thinks he's the world's best boss. Is he? Let's just say Prison Mike has a better HR record. An anecdote would be, it's why your friend who's played guitar for 2 weeks insists they're ready to start a band. This matters because confidence doesn't equal competence, but the world often confuses the two. Number 4 is hindsight bias. An example would be if after a baseball match your friend says, "I knew that team would win." Did you really? No! Why does it matter? Well, it can make us overconfident in our predictive abilities, causing us not to learn from our mistakes. Number 5 is the false consensus effect. This is when you believe more people agree with you than they actually do. An anecdote would be if you think a sound is really trending on social media, but when you click on the sound, there's only 200 videos with it in it. Number 6 is the halo effect. A subset of this would be pretty privilege. One positive trait can make the entire person seem amazing, when really their other traits are subpar. For example, Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother would see a pretty girl and immediately projects future wife, mother of my children, co-signer of my marriage. It matters because it's why we let our charismatic leaders or influencers get away with a lot. Number 7, anchoring bias. This is when you rely too heavily on the first piece of information offered. It's like if you see an ad for a product and because it says it's so amazing, it's so cheap, it's literally perfect, you go ahead and buy it. But if you just looked a little deeper into the reviews, you'd see that it's actually a piece of trash. Number 8, self-serving bias or actor-observer bias. This is when we attribute our successes to ourselves and our failures to external factors. But for others, it's their fault they failed. It warps accountability, and in this day and age, we need more accountability. What causes these biases in the first place? Well, heuristics save brain power, but are prone to error. There's also social pressures. We conform to groups even if they're wrong. And finally, we're emotional. Fear, desire, or overconfidence override rational thought. Here's how to fight them. You can't eliminate biases. They're ingrained in us, but you can limit their effects. First, accept that you have them. Then learn what they are, like you're doing right now. Pause before decisions. The 24-hour rule. Sleep on it. Write down your initial reactions. Journaling can expose biases. Seek multiple perspectives, especially from people you disagree with. Finally, stay curious and flexible. Here's a practical tip. Next time you feel certain about something, ask yourself, am I actually right, or is my brain just taking a shortcut? So, do you think logically? Objectively? Probably not. But now, at least you know why. Biases don't make us stupid, they make us human. But if we learn to recognize them, we can make better decisions, argue less on the internet, and maybe, just maybe, stop buying smart toasters. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this brain check, hit that like button, subscribe, and remember, stay skeptical, even of yourself. Psychic out.